Hey, everybody, it's Jon Meyers from Write Better Together. We interrupt whatever you're watching to tell you about something. Look, everybody, it's Emily Brooks.
Hello, Jon Meyers.
Hey.
Our book, Write
Yes.
Anyway,
Yeah, I know that
Giving
book.
Yourself Permission to Write No Matter What, is now
Yes.
available on Amazon.
We were the right experts to write this book, weren't we?
We were experts. You can get the book in digital and paperback. You can get a sample. It's a really good sample, too. It's got the introduction. It's got 2 chapters. So you'll already get something out of it by doing that. And then you'll also be part of our newsletter. So you get updates to whenever we publish a new podcast, whenever we have community announcements, like if we might do a webinar in the future. So you'll be up to date. And if you do happen to buy our book, we would love to hear about it. We love feedback. We would love for you to share a review on Amazon so that other people can find it.
It talks directly to you,
it
the
does.
listener.
We intentionally edit it that way.
With you in mind. Welcome, everybody, to Write Better Together. I'm Jon Meyers. Hey, look, everybody, it's Emily Brooks.
Hello, Jon Meyers.
Hello. What are we talking about today?
Sorry for all the giggling.
Why are you apologizing for giggling? You should apologize for tears. No, you shouldn't. You should never apologize for your emotions.
Okay. I always it's just, I don't know. Our introduction always funny to me. And you were making funny faces.
You told me I had to hold still and smile for a long period of time.
Long enough for me to take a screenshot. We are talking with Dr. Cindy Childress.
Oh.
About outlining and branding.
And ghostwriting a little bit.
And ghostwriting and working with clients, and also
multiple streams of income.
We talk about so many things. I don't know how we're going to title this episode. And the outlining, like specifically nonfiction, but we get into fiction as well. And it's just so good. This is a great episode. Before that, we're going to have listener responses.
Oh, this is quite the list.
This is quite the list. And then Dr. Cindy is going to give you all a call to action for you to respond to. I'm going to have a fact for Jon Meyers.
Also called Hey Jon Meyers.
Hey Jon Meyers, hashtag. And then the final act, where we play a silly game.
A silly game.
Stolen from the internet.
And I heard it's hard.
It is kind of hard, actually.
I heard it's difficult.
How'd you get out of your bubble?
So, first of all, Sniffy. Let's acknowledge your sniffiness, Sniffies.
Thank you. So I'm going to be like ducking out of the camera multiple times in this episode because I've got the sniffles. And it happened as soon as we sat down. So I don't know what that means.
It means she's allergic to this episode.
I was fine before we started.
All right. So I
got out of my bubble too much.
Oh, maybe. Maybe not. Maybe you're just allergic to...
I spent all day outside yesterday, so that might be it.
Well, that's what it is. Nature is dirty. Haven't we established that? So I was on my stupid walk.
Outside.
And remember Mystery Girl?
Oh, no. Yeah.
So I haven't been able to walk in that direction. So I haven't walked in that direction because I didn't want to look all creepy and everything. Well, so I was on my stupid walk and I was like, I can only go in 2 directions now. This is getting boring. And so the next time I went to the store, I went that way in the car. There's a for rent sign in front of her empty house. The kayaks are gone. Both cars are gone. She's gone. So now the positive spin on that, take a positive spin and put it on anything, is I can walk in that direction now.
Yay!
So now my stupid walk can go in 3 directions. I don't know what happened. I didn't, clearly she was moving in 2 months ago and, cause it was moving boxes, but she got out of there fast. She hightailed it out of there fast.
Wow.
She heard us talking about her on the podcast and was like, I got to get out of this neighborhood.
Are you going to write a screenplay about it?
About what? That a girl moved into a house, and 2 months later, I could write a David Bell story, The Missing
Yeah,
Girl.
she's gone.
She's gone. um, uh, I got nothing. There's no clues. There was no
Wow.
garbage day. Was the that's when I first saw her. Was on garbage day. There was no extra garbage or anything. I got nothing. Empty
Wow.
house. It's like when in a movie where they go back and like the whole office, like there's like this whole office full of electronics and everything, and then they go back. This is where the crime was, and it's like just an empty warehouse, and there's no office in there or anything. That's what it looks like. Because
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I get what you're saying. Yes.
this is gone. So
Yeah.
here's a picture of the for rent sign with the phone number blurred out. There you go.
Well,
Wasn't a
interesting.
story. Wasn't a
It was a
ending to a
closing.
story.
It was a closing. Maybe.
One door closes, another door closes another way.
Yep.
Did you get out of your bubble all day and get the sniffles?
Yeah. So, well, I started teaching this morning.
Oh, so you were
So
at work this morning?
I was at work this morning,
Wow, I didn't know that.
and I didn't have the sniffles then, thank goodness, because it was my first day of class.
One of those
Uh,
germy students.
I know. I'm teaching dual enrollment for juniors in high
Cool.
school. And I was late because I got there super early because I wanted to print some stuff, but they changed where I was supposed to get in. And so I had to walk around the whole building, and it's a big building to find where I was supposed to get in. And then nobody told me my room number, so I had to like have somebody walk me to my room. And then my students were all there waiting for me, and I was only like 2 minutes late, but still, I was like, man, not a great first day.
And you told
Um,
your students, I would have been on time, but I had to go on my stupid walk.
exactly. But also because I didn't have time to print stuff, they didn't have the syllabus because they hadn't put it online yet.
Oh.
So that was fun. So I had to improvise a lot today. But I'm telling
I
this,
don't do the syllabus on the first day, so I would not have that issue.
it was fine because I was like, it's really not that urgent. It's fine. But here's what's interesting because we've talked about first days of class. We've talked about creating class culture, especially in the Hunter episode, the episode with Hunter Little. And I realized something when it's a dual enrollment class for high schoolers. The first day and everything is completely different because they already know each other. So when you're introducing a freshman class, they're like, it's like their first day of school,
Yep.
of college, and they don't know anything and they don't know anybody. But for dual enrollment, these students, they know each other, so they're already talking. They already are comfortable around each other. They already have a culture. It just opens up different opportunities. I still have to get to know them, but they're so comfortable already, and it's just great. Even though I have double the students this semester, they were like, "What do you mean by semester?" And I'm like, "I'm sorry, I'm used to college." I have double the students, but it still felt like a smaller classroom because it wasn't like students who didn't know each other just staring at me like, what are we doing? They were already open to talking, and so I already know that they're going to be really attentive and really engaged.
Do they
So
know that you're a world famous podcaster yet?
no, I forgot to mention it in my introduction. I was like, man, I should have mentioned it, so it'll come up. Last year I shared one of our clip from our video about the T.S. Eliot poem.
Oh yeah. I remember that episode. We were so young back then.
Because we were using the textbook that you pointed out. Yeah, we were so young.
Did you show them that?
I did when you were like, this textbook is fake news. They laughed.
What'd they do?
They just laughed. It was funny.
Good. Um,
Sorry, I'm so sniffly.
that's okay.
Goodness.
I'm sorry that while I took a couple sips, I want to address an issue,
Oh,
an important issue. So you've seen me drink out of this for every episode.
oh yeah.
So this will tell you how often I go there. I went there. I went to Slim Chickens.
You know, we
this,
have one
this,
close to that we go to a lot.
but I don't go there that often. This is the first time I've gone since we've started the podcast.
Oh wow.
And So I got a large, so I could get a fresh one of these. I have 2 of these, so it's not that I don't drink out of the same one all the time. And this is what they gave me. Boo, styrofoam. We're not styrofoam friendly at Right Better Together. And so I'm
No.
like, you don't have a plastic cup? Like, plastic is better, but and they're like, no, we only do that at grand openings. I'm like, what?
Oh,
And
that makes sense. That would be expensive.
that so this one, you're saying the styrofoam's less expensive than this thin little
Probably.
flimsy plastic?
Oh, probably.
Wow, I didn't know
Maybe.
that.
I don't know. I do know that you have triggered a pet peeve of mine.
What?
I hate disposable things, disposable drink cups, disposable, like I will avoid buying something because I know it's in a package.
Well, this is our 100th episode, I think, and I've I've used one of these same two. These don't get thrown away. I've used
Yeah,
one of these same 2 cups,
exactly. Yeah.
and I would have done the same with the new one,
Yeah.
were it not for.
Now it's
And
styrofoam and it's going to live forever.
yeah, well, I'll chop it up into little tiny pieces, and then I'll
Oh,
eat it. Will that be better? No, I won't eat it. um, so yeah, Slim Chickens, get on the ball here, man. It's 2024. There goes our
also,
sponsorship.
Slim Chickens, please give us free chicken. For mentioning you on the podcast. Just kidding.
I'm not kidding. I'll take free chicken. I'm not too proud. All right. What happens next? What do we do? I don't even know.
We have
It's been so
listener
long.
responses, and we have a surprise one that you didn't tell me beforehand.
Oh, in response to one of our shorts with Paul Gay, Little Rascals, that at the time I looked, it had 400 views. This person right here, this person whose aunt is in there. We got our first troll, Emily. We got a troll.
Wow.
And as you can see in that clip, Aunt said, we got trolled by 4 emojis.
Are they unspeakable emojis?
No, they are Z Z Z Z Z Z Z Z Z. It's like sleepy emoji, drip drip,
What does
like a faucet dripping. so he so he was saying that Paul Gay and you and I were boring, or she.
Wow.
I should. We don't know what their gender is. And so this is the first time I've ever had respond to a troll. I have not responded yet. This is my response, because we're gonna kill him with kindness. We're gonna love
Wow.
on this troll. This. If you troll us, we're just gonna love on you and tell you that Jesus loves you, and we're do you know what preteritio is?
No.
Okay, preteritio, Emily, or if you were using your English accent today, they say preteritio. It's Prae, and they say the ae is an I, and so it's preteritio. Is when someone goes, I would never stoop so low as to point out that you don't dress well and that you flunked out of college and they list all the bad things. Preteritio is the rhetorical tactic of being above the charges that you're laying against the person. And so if you were wanted to insult me without without insulting me, Emily would say to me, I would never stoop so low as to say you always wear black, you must only own one black shirt. And that's preteritio. So I would never stoop so low as to say that this person has no life, and then and that they're and that
Never.
based on their YouTube channel, that they really have accomplished nothing with their life in the last 11 years. I would never stoop that low to do that. And because I would just tell them that they're great and that not all content is for everybody. And I'm not gonna apologize for our content. That the teaching moment is not everything on YouTube is for everybody, and
Yeah.
so ant. I'm also not going to be like Arnold Schwarzenegger and say I'll crush you like a little ant or like that's
I have never heard you do a voice before.
yes you have you heard Baggy's voice
Oh yeah, you're right. You're
you've
right.
heard
I
voices
heard.
but
But that was yeah.
that was a terrible that was that was a terrible impression anyway so I'm not gonna do that either but so that they had like 4 videos on their channel ant and they and they one had like a lot of views 11 years ago and so they were somebody 11 years ago and but since 11 years ago 2 videos and they had no views and then nothing in the last 5 or 6 years so whoever
Oh,
this is a grown person right even
so I
if they were 18 11 years ago now they're 29
so I thought we were gonna kill them with kindness, but you've said
um
nothing but insulting.
no I'm telling you what I'm not doing I'm preteritioing anything that we put out it like not everyone's going to care about every episode and so if you thought I was going negative there in a minute it's fascinating to me that forget ant for a second like why did you watch it like if it's not like if that's not for you and you're a 29-year-old or older gamer and that's not for you why did you like I don't get why you watched it and then took the time to comment so now I'm going to swing it back positive I appreciate the comment I appreciate that they spent the time because everyone's time is limited and that they took the time to comment with their drippy faucets like th- good for them there you
You
go
know, you said that was the first troll, but we had another one that I can't tell if it's a troll or not.
yeah I know I wasn't going to bring it up they trolled little kids.
They trolled little kids. So there's a video that was very popular for some reason where I talked about my nieces and nephews started a band
Yeah, I wasn't
and
gonna
I
bring
shared
that up because
the
they're little
band name
kids.
and they said, "That's a terrible band name." And I was like, it's kids. They came up with the band name.
It's a
They
fantastic band name, especially if you're 4 and 3 years old. And so preteritio that person. Yep, that's what we're gonna do. That's how we're gonna handle trolls. We're just gonna love on them because we
Yeah.
love everybody.
Um, listeners, if you want to be called out on these responses, you can also respond to our videos and like them and share them with others and write a review. Hopefully, a positive one.
I thought you were
Yes,
gonna say if you'd like to make fun of 4 and 3-year-olds,
if you want to troll us, then we'll be kind to you.
little
I
kids should be off limits.
I know,
All right, go ahead.
especially
Sorry.
ones that have a brilliant band name. Is this time? Is it time for our interview?
Hey everybody,
Hey,
Emily's gonna read Cindy's Dr.
oh, thank
Cindy's
you,
introduction and tell you about her qualifications. She
thank
does
you.
everything. Dr.
Oh my
Cindy
goodness,
is
yeah, and
amazing.
it's quite the list. So, who we're about to talk to is Dr. Cindy Childress, the
Yes,
expert's ghostwriter,
she
trademark.
is.
She supports entrepreneurs to write books that make money and make an impact. Her clients achieve bestseller status, give TEDx Talks, win book awards, sign book deals, and more. The highlights of her results in the past 7 years are she had 44 client and student books published, 14 number one best-selling books, 17 book awards, and 2 traditional book deals. It's like, wow, already. I'm not even done yet. She was awarded a Gold American Business Award for Company of the Year, Media and Entertainment in 2022. The year before, she won 2 gold awards with the International Business Awards 2021, Company of the Year in Business or Professional Services, and Company of the Year in Media and Entertainment. She co authored The Logical Law of Attraction with Helen Rax. How would you pronounce that? It's Racz.
Um, so Paczki, the Polish Danish. So Pacz, that's pronounced punchki. And so I guess
Which,
RACZ is that what you said?
yeah.
It would be Rutsch.
I'm going to look it up because we can just
CZ is pronounced ch in Polish. Punchki.
We're going to listen to it. Raj.
Oh, I was wrong. She's not Polish.
All right. So it's Helen Raj, and was quoted in U.S. News and World Report, plus featured in Thrive Global, amongst many other publications. Cindy holds a PhD in English from the University of Louisiana at Lafayette. In addition to bespoke ghostwriting services, she leads online writing and editing classes and author coaching programs. She's also a foster mom with Rescued Pets Movement and a faculty member with Right Space Houston in Texas. So, wow, we're super happy to have Cindy on this podcast. And it's a great conversation.
Hey, everybody, look, we're still here. It's Emily Brooks.
Well, hello, Jon Meyers.
Hey. Oh, thanks for
Hey.
saying what my name was.
Because you forgot to say your name. Hey, look, everybody, it's Cindy Childress.
Oh, my goodness.
Hey, everybody.
Hey,
Hey,
Dr.
welcome to the
Cindy.
podcast.
Where
Thank
are
you.
you, Dr. Cindy?
Houston, Texas.
Oh, in Houston, and you survived the hurricane.
Yes, thank goodness.
We're so glad, because we did not want to have to reschedule a different guest in this slot, and that would have been awful. Okay, Dr. Cindy, when the last time I heard you speak, you would talk about. This is not why you're here, but you would talk about how you had multiple streams of income, and I always found that super inspiring, especially for our listeners who they're trying to do that same thing, in that they're trying to cobble together an income so that they can quit their day job. And before you talk about outlining, inspire them with the way that you used to say in your introduction, and then do your current version of that.
Yes, so multiple streams of income. In fact, I just pitched to Entrepreneur Magazine to tell this story, so I really hope they take it. We can say they heard it here first. So when I first started my business, it wasn't even a ghostwriting business yet, I called it Childress Business Communication because I wanted businesses to hire me to do about any kind of writing. And because I have a PhD in English and I've taught technical writing and expository and creative writing, etc. I can write almost anything. I won't be the best at everything, but I can do almost anything. And so I was off to the races. And this was really smart at first because it gave me the flexibility to take any kind of job that came my way that I felt equipped to take. So in that way, I wasn't pigeonholed into one thing, let's say copywriting, and then I would have to turn away SEO rich blog writing. So I could do it all. And then I did not quit my day job until I had so much business in my freelance job that I couldn't do both. The amount of hours I had for the freelance was, it was excessive it was like impossible. I do need to sleep, actually. And so with that company, I cut back my hours to 20. And I continued working 20 hours a week for the old company from 2017 to 2021. So that was a long time that I had half the income that I had before guaranteed. And this allowed me to take a lot of risks on how I was going to make up or exceed the other half of that income. And I did, continued to offer the kinds of writing services in my business. I also became a contractor to do editing with Right Space Houston, and I also mentored poets. And then I have several partners who, when I refer clients to them, for instance, to hybrid publishers, when my clients finish writing their book, they want to publish it, they're not a fit for traditional publishing and they would like some help, then, when they hire my friend's company, then I get a referral bonus there. So I'll have those checks coming in the mail, which are always a welcome surprise. And even today, inside my business, the reason I'm making more money this year than I did last year, even though I have not had any ghostwriting clients in 2024. I've diversified my offers, and I have a lot of people working with me in an author mentorship capacity where we collaborate to write their book instead of me doing it all for them. And I have my online course, Crank Out Your Book in 8 Weeks, which is available on demand. People buy it on my website. They don't even have to talk to me. Just buy it. There it is. Do it. So, I have my website is selling for me. And with all these different opportunities moving, there's always opportunity to make a sale, to find another project, and keep that bank account growing in the right direction.
So now, we just finished our book. Thank you.
Congratulations.
And
It's beautiful.
by
Oh,
the
thank
time,
you.
thank you. By the time this airs, in 2026, no, I'm joking. By the time this airs, it will already be out. And so the actual writing we did in less than 8 weeks, I think, didn't we? Or about 8 weeks. And people are always like, "How did you do that?" And so we can just refer them to you, and like Dr. Cindy will teach you exactly how. And so I didn't realize that those
Less than 8
time
weeks.
frames coincided like that.
Oh, that's so cool. I love that.
I really love too that idea of having, okay, this is the thing where I know that this income is guaranteed, so I can be riskier with
Yes.
this. I feel like so I'm married, so my husband makes the reliable income, and I kind of like sprinkle onto that with teaching and writing, and so it's it's a good position to be in when you don't have to worry about that. Um, and we also do sewing and stuff for my sister. I've talked about that on here before, but my sister has a
Cool.
sewing business, and so we contribute to that as well. And I think that that's just common for writers to have, multiple gigs and multiple income streams because we want to keep taking the risks, and we want to keep like the creative aspects in our lives.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. My husband even has multiple streams of income. He's an engineer, and he also builds and sells guitar pedals.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
I didn't think I knew that.
That's cool.
New in the last year.
You go ahead, plug his business.
Yeah,
Oh,
for sure. Do it. We'll put it in the show notes.
honestly, I don't remember his handle on the, let's put it in the show notes. How about that?
Yeah,
Okay, that
perfect.
works.
Yeah.
That's cool. We have musicians that listen to us.
Oh, that's
Mm-hmm.
Emily's in Nashville, and
Yes.
I am in an undisclosed location, so no slipping up on that, Dr. Cindy. Dr. Cindy knows where I am.
I'll be quiet.
We know
all
where
right.
you are, Jon Meyers.
So you came here to talk about outlining with a purpose. Talk about that. We'll
Yeah.
interrupt with questions.
Absolutely. So when there are two sides to this. First of all, if you try to write a book, or I would argue even a paper or a freaking email, without an outline, it is much harder to write it, and it is much harder to edit for a variety of reasons. But the top reasons are when you didn't have a path and you weren't sure exactly where it was going, it's really hard to know what to add or take away or move around because it's just this kind of, it's a squid thing. And then when you have an outline and you have planned, even though plans change, it happens in real life, it happens when you're writing as well. But when you have a plan of where you're going, then for instance, in a book, I work with entrepreneurs, and this happens a lot. They've got a great business story, and in the ghostwriting interview, they'll tell it to me in 3 different places. And so obviously then we have to plan either where is the best place to tell the story, or do we chop it up and put it in a few different places. But that's really, you can plan that in advance though, and say, okay, so we're going to put this story here. What other story do you have about that? And fill in all those gaps before you start writing, or in my case, having ghostwriting interviews. And This way you're going to have a much better first draft. And even though it's still going to be messy, because that's what first drafts are, the mess is going to have more of an organization and structure, which is going to make it much easier to start going in and doing those next layers of fine editing. And I'm a really big fan when it comes to outlining to be as detailed as possible. So we don't just do chapter topics, but within each chapter, then we break down, if it's a memoir, okay, so what are all the micro stories that we're going to tell within the story arc of this larger story? Or, if it's a business book, then, okay, so here's this piece of your framework, and what are the 3 to 5 pieces that we're breaking down, and how are we breaking them down? And when you've done that, like the plan for each chapter can be as much as half of a page or even a page and a half. This is also fantastic because you've already got some word count that you'll probably be able to repurpose into the draft itself.
Yeah.
Is your process, I know your process is different with every author, but where does the outlining take place? Like sometimes you'll spend a whole weekend with someone and, intensive 40 hours with them in 3 days or whatever. And then other times it's, I'll let you explain it rather than me try to explain what you do. But other times it's so much every week or whatever. When does the outline start to take shape?
Thank you for asking that, because there are 2 really important things that should happen before you outline. And in fact, a mistake a lot of people make when they come to me, I'll explain how I work with people, and they'll say, "Oh, I've already got an outline." And I'm always respectful. I'm like, "Okay, awesome. Let me see it." And usually there's a lot of what I call area of opportunity there, because what they've done, and this is fun, it's a good exercise, is they've put, okay, this is everything that I want to say in the book. And that is helpful for me. But what we need to do before we call it an outline is say exactly who is the target reader of this book. We must identify one. It's okay if you also have a peripheral audience or 2 that you're going to call out, occasionally along the way. Like you're mainly writing a book for doctors, but some people are going to be interested in this topic as well. So occasionally you say, and if you're not a doctor, if you're a patient, like this or that, but mostly it's going to be focused on doctors. And then once we know that, then we know how much level of detail we need, which if it's going to be for other experts and peers and mentors in your field, we need a lot of information. However, this is not usually the kind of book that most people write. They're usually trying to write for beginners. So in that case, there's a lot of detail and fancy stuff that you're really excited because you spent a lot of time learning it that really doesn't belong in this book for beginners who just need to know the basics so they can get going and solve the one problem they had that made them look for your book. So we like to get down to that detail of, so here's your topic, here's the kind of person that you want to connect with on this topic, and then what is it they're thinking about or are curious about? What is bothering them so much that they're going to look for a book like yours? And then on the other side of that, what's the outcome they're looking for, or what's the transformation? With a nonfiction book, the transformation can be not knowing and confused and fearful to confident and well-informed. And, with an action plan. For a memoir, the transformation could be depressed and hopeless to, joyful and hopeful. Those are all good, but we need to know where we start, where we end up, and then look at what your goals are for the book yourself. And a lot of times in that conversation, we find out that someone who thought they were going to write a business book really wants to write a self-help book. Those are different slightly, but it's important in terms of the level of detail and the balance between storytelling and just straight up information. So we get all that sorted out. So if I don't know what genre of book you're writing, I'm not even going to be able to help you with your table of contents. But with all this sorted, we're going to know what chapter 1 needs to be about, which is that one problem that your best reader wants help with now, that you can most easily give them that help with. and then the transformation. And then we look at, okay, so here's like your table of contents sandwich. Now, what's everything that needs to be inside of here to create that transformation arc for them, which then becomes the narrative arc for your book. And I do narrative arcs. I know there's probably a lot of fiction writers tuning in. I have a very similar process for narrative arcs that I apply to all the nonfiction books that I work on, which makes them a lot more readable and engaging.
I was going to say this is so good because I write both, but I'm more experienced with outlining fiction. That's what I've been like studying more. And what I've been learning is I was going to pull up this book. Again, I pull up this book a lot, The Science of Storytelling by Will Storr, because in the back he has a reference on, or his appendix. Like if you just read the appendix, it's amazing because it talks about outlining I want to think he uses 5 or 7 acts, but he does each act is about the character growth. And it's introducing here's the character's problem, here's how they're trying to change, but they fail to change, and then here's how they finally change.
Mm-hmm.
And when you were describing your nonfiction outlines, it's the same thing, only the reader is the character. And I've never thought of it that way. I think that's so neat to think of it as like, what is the journey that the reader is on?
Thank you. I love that. Every chapter ends opening the loop for the next chapter.
Yeah. So that's a really interesting thing is how does that work? How do you make that chapter ending do that?
So there's a few different ways, but the one that I like to think of, let's just kind of for like an easy example, say that it's a business book where you're teaching a framework. So the framework has 7 pillars. So each chapter is a different pillar of the framework. Then when you've solved the problem of this pillar of the framework in this chapter, then it's like, okay, great. And now that you have that covered, you're going to encounter these kind of problems. And don't worry though, because the next pillar is going to solve those for you. So you have to turn the page and find out how. That's
And
like,
that's so much like fiction too, because it's like, okay, we solved this problem, but guess what? You opened the door and
we finally got our door open, but guess what? We've got a flat tire.
Yes, exactly. It's so similar to like the way that we move readers along. I love that. That's so cool. Do you find, so this is something that happens to me a lot, and you mentioned it earlier on how things change. I often find that when I outline, something happens in the writing process where either I'm coming up with better ideas or I'm realizing, or especially with nonfiction, like, oh, I didn't leave room to explain this whole thing, and in order to get to this part, I have to add this part that so that it bridges that. Do you find that happening a lot? Or does it happen
all the
less
time.
frequently the more experienced you are?
Well, I think it becomes easier to solve and easier to recognize when it comes up. And sometimes, with experience, there will be like follow-up questions that I'll ask in the beginning phases to, if I see that there's, some warning signs that could be happening. But a lot of times it's just in the writing process. And I'll go to the client and say, hey, this thing that was planned to be a couple pages could itself be a standalone chapter. What do you think about, we can trim this, or if you do want to say this much, then, we go back to the TOC and, we look for where do we put it and is there anything we need to change around the other chapters to make it fit? And I just worked with a client who she had one chapter planned for 4 topics, which is fine. And then she realized that for the first 2 topics, there was one main teaching point for those 2. And then for the other 2, there was another thing she needed to teach first. So then that, splits up into 2 chapters. And then what was going to be chapter 3, we didn't know until it was completely written. But actually, because it was all about problems that could happen along the way, like after you've started doing the thing her book teaches you how to do, then she realized, okay, actually now it's the next to last chapter. And those are choices that would have been hard to make until we saw how much she had to say and what she had to say exactly, and we had a good draft. But then it was so easy to copy and paste and move it. It was like snap. The hardest thing was just making that choice.
Emily is working on a secret project with another writer, and this is perfect timing for her, right? And
It is, because
so without divulging the details, pick Dr. Cindy's brain for this book that you're working on.
So, and it's been a while since we've been able to like really talk about it, but basically this person wants to write a nonfiction, kind of self-help, inspirational, more inspirational book, and has never written a book before. And so we're in those early, what is this book? What needs to be included in this book? What's that main transformation? And so, yeah, I mean, those are the very, very beginning stages. So I would be curious, how do you, with your clients, like, how do you pick their brain and really get them to find the message?
Yeah, when it comes to the transformation, another way, so I like to start by talking with them about the transformation, because if I go straight to the narrative arc or the idea of a through line, that can be like deer in the headlights for the clients. As you said, when they're not already writers themselves, and this is a foreign vocabulary to them. But I ask them, okay, so because the reader is looking to solve one problem, this book needs to open with that problem, and then this book needs to cover the breadcrumbs of solving that problem until we get to the end of the book. And when I ask it to them that way, then it's easier for them to start brainstorming with me of what we would call the initial conflict or the inciting action or those kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
And then so we find like what is the central problem that they're trying to solve or that the reader wants to solve for the transformation. So I can always go back to the transformation to kind of refocus them when they have 18 possible narratives. I'm like, okay, well, any one of them can work. What's the best one that you have the most to talk about, that most directly speaks to this transformation arc that we're creating? And usually when I'm speaking that way, and sometimes if they've already got some writing they can send me, that helps me come back and say, wow, 70% of this was on theme X. If that sounds right to you, I suggest we make that the dominant theme. And you can always have, subdominant themes that are also going to pop up along the way. And then I just like to make sure that we don't have one that just comes in once and never again. And then it's like, okay, where was that going? If we do have sub themes, I like to make sure those are woven in enough to make the book feel balanced and like everything got enough coverage to close all of those open loops.
So what I'm hearing is that this is impossible conversation to have if you're not considering the audience, Rick Rubin. And we have an ongoing debate in this on this podcast of Rick Rubin versus Jacob Collier. Jacob Collier says you have to consider the audience at the moment of inception, and Rick Rubin says, "How dare you? How dare you consider the audience? It's all about pure art."
I would say you could call it conception, and without the writer and the reader, you don't have a living thing. Books are living, breathing bodies of work that come to life every time a reader interprets it in a different way. So, I mean, to your own peril, you can ignore the reader, and you may get lucky. And I'm sure that's possible. I won't discount that, but I think you're going to set yourself up for more success and probably less stressful editing processes when you are considering your reader.
Yeah, and I think especially with, we're talking a lot about nonfiction, like self-help, inspirational, those kinds of things, like where would you even start without considering the audience. Like I could see writing a fiction book or poetry or songs or something without thinking about the audience. Obviously, um, I think of writing as a gift. It's a gift to another human. And
Mm-hmm.
so if that gift's for yourself, then great, maybe you needed that gift. But if you're trying to do that and get listeners, that's and
Mm-hmm.
readers, that's going to be a much more difficult battle.
Thank you for saying that. I completely agree. And sometimes the first draft is just for yourself. I've written plenty of poems that no one's ever read and they
Mhm.
probably won't, and that's completely fine. They're, I write it and like it's all good. And then other ones, are out there, they're published, people can read them. I've performed them a lot of times, and so those become public, but they also don't only belong to me, they belong to every person who interprets them for themselves. And so the first draft is for yourself. I tell the writers that, but in the editing process, that final draft is not for you anymore. It's for the readers.
What percent? Well, it's probably not what maybe it's quantifiable by percent, maybe it's not. What percent? Now I just asked a question with a percent in it. Answer this question any way possible. It's whether it's quantifiable or not. What was my question now?
Oh, Jon Meyers, you're hilarious.
um, there's in screenwriting, there are people who think they're the audience. Like I'm right, not that I'm writing this for me, but that everyone agrees with me, and that because I want to see this, the world
Mm-hmm.
wants to see this, and that is not true. So in nonfiction, like talk about that, like
Yeah.
when the author thinks they're the audience.
Oh, yes. Thank you. This happens all the time in first drafts. And my response always there, because I'm almost always working with first time authors who don't consider themselves writers. I'm always like, hey, I'm just glad you gave me the information because we can edit it. But I look for things like always and never, or this is patently good or patently bad, or we have all experienced this. We all know, everyone has, unless it's like a human thing, like we all have skin. I mean, that's basically true. But, we all have this friend who, well, that's not necessarily true. And that's probably harmless. But, other things they can say may be off-putting to some readers. And sometimes, like I'm working with a client on a book now, and she has a very radical approach to forgiveness. And it could turn away some people who are actually her readers if she doesn't make room for their possible dissent within the book. But she can do that by saying, hey, if you're like a lot of people, including myself, you probably learned this about forgiveness. And then you may have encountered these kinds of problems when you tried to forgive and forget, and then it lingered. And you're like, now I feel like a bad Christian because I said I forgave them, and now I still don't feel like I forgave them. And then, so she invites you to identify with the problem or not, to say, no, I don't know what you're talking about. This never happened to me. She makes room for both of those people, because sometimes even if it actually is you, you're not willing to say that. And but if she doesn't give you like a hard yes or no, this is me, if she just allows you to say most, or, it's common that, then people can decide if they agree or not. And even if they don't agree, because she's given room for the possibility everyone doesn't agree, then they will still keep reading if they're interested in what she has to say.
So this is Emily's already smiling. This is fantastic. Where were you 2 months ago, Dr. Cindy? So in our book, every other chapter, Emily wrote a chapter, I wrote a chapter, like that. And so it was an unintentional conversation, but it turned out to be a conversation with the reader, and between like a three-way conversation.
That's
And
so
but there
cool.
were things where Emily would push back, and like where what you just said, I would go and put a paragraph up above the the bumping paragraph that could bump into a reader. And I would say some people might think, or many people might think, and but you just said like 8 different ways to say that rather than repeating the same way. And that's
100%.
an important lesson right there.
Absolutely. And you can even use it to not only to like when you have an opinion that you think people will disagree with, but when you are talking to the reader and you know other people may disagree with both of you. So there's a lot of ways that you can open it up, or even kind of a devil's advocate thing. When you start out with, so this is how we all think, this is how we think about this now. Like, let's say, I think it's so interesting, the conversation on how much water should a human being drink per day. So for years, it was 8 ounces. That is it. Now there are experts who say 6 is enough. There are other experts who say as long as you drink when you're thirsty, you don't have to count it, and it's enough for you personally. And there's a lot of infighting between all of those perspectives, and you can create a really interesting dialogue with the reader where you could even end up, as I have to say there, like, I really don't know the answer, but to have all those balls into play, you invite the reader to investigate different positions before finding or changing theirs.
Whenever we had those conversations, it wasn't to like prove one side was right and the other side was right. It was to include everyone. It was the conversations that Emily and I would have would be to how do I, Jon Meyers, make this more inclusive for everyone? Because that was my intention.
Mm-hmm. I love it.
Yeah, and I also find myself commenting on student writing a lot for this very reason, where it's like, okay, you said this thing, but did you consider that your readers might think this thing? And that's a lot of times happens in argumentative writing, but I agree too that it could be even just about including people and thinking about their experiences. Like I write a blog every week, and I try to be so careful to do this because I very much make it clear, like, these are my experiences.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that both of us caught ourselves doing during revision was changing a lot of the I statements to you statements.
Oh, I love that.
Where it'd be like, because I would explain my experience of my revision process. I have to do this, then I do this, then I do this. And then I changed it instead to focusing on the reader. You
Mm-hmm.
may want to try. This
Yeah.
might work for you. And instead of it being about me, it was making it more about them, but also giving them those options and knowing that we made it very clear in the beginning, these may not work for you. It's okay. You can still try it and see.
That's the perfect segue to just like how the brand of this podcast is we couldn't have done it without you, right? So we always have to include them. So when you are dealing with a new author who's never written before, how many of them think they have a brand and they don't really have a brand, or they push back on you and go, no, that's not my brand? Talk about that, because you're the queen of branding as well.
I love to talk about branding. So, interestingly enough, off the top of my head, I don't recall someone saying to me, that's not my brand, unless I ask them, is this on brand for you or not? Like the book I mentioned a minute ago, when chapter 3 became chapter 12, for this author, in person, she will be a little bit more saucy in how she speaks. And so I asked her if she wanted to be saucy in her book or not. And she told me no. If she hadn't told me no, I would have assumed she wanted to write the book kind of how her personality comes across one-on-one. So that's an example of me asking that branding question because I knew it could go different ways. Now, frequently, people not only don't have brands, but it's not so much that they don't realize they have a brand, but that they don't realize that they need one. They think a brand is like Coca-Cola. I mean, that's a great example, but it's not the only way that something can be a brand. And they haven't thought of themselves as a marketer when they're going to have to be the face of their book in most cases. And when I help them develop their brands, I've got a great example of this. There was an older gentleman at the Write Space. So they have an annual conference called Write Fest, and I was on a panel talking about branding. And this man in his 70s raised his hand and he said, "This all sounds well, fun, and good, but how do I have a brand?" And I'd seen him at several events before, and I said, "You totally have a brand. Every time I've seen you, you've had on these gigantic black glasses." And he was bald, so that was part of it too. And I said, "And you have a sweater draped around your shoulders. You are the only person in here with a sweater over your shoulders and tied in the front. You have a look. There's, I could see you across the room. I could tell someone this description and they would be able to come in here and find you. Like, you have it. Just constantly, like, be conscientious that you're choosing to put yourself together like this consistently." And, so we do that for, appearance, and maybe that's pretty simple. Brand colors are another one, to try to stick to the same color palette. And I did this for myself over time. So in 2017, I chose red with kind of like a raspberry alternative. And I didn't change my wardrobe up overnight, but after that, every time I would buy clothes for myself, I would choose things that were in that color palette. And over time, I developed a wardrobe now that is a beautiful crest of my brand colors across the hangers. And so that's the visual thing. And then we also have, I mentioned, are you saucy? Are you formal? There's how you speak to readers. There's a tone that you inhabit. And that needs to be consistent too, because every time you speak to your readers, and by speak, this can be in social media, it can be from one book to another, they're going to have expectations for your voice to show up a certain way consistently. And when you're doing that, then you are satisfying the reader's expectations, and readers love to have their expectations satisfied.
I love that you said that guy didn't know what his brand was. So because in my undisclosed location, Dr. Cindy came and spoke to some of our creative writing students, but I had 6 of my English 100 students who also came just because they're into whatever I'm into. They're like, "Oh, Jon Meyers is going, I'm going to go." And so unprepared, no, they weren't prompted or anything. After you did that, I said, "Hey, Dr. Cindy, watch this." And I had my 6 English 100 students stand up and tell them what my brand, we never discussed brand in English 100. I said, "Tell them what my brand is." And one by one, they just nailed it. "Oh, he always does this. He always says this. He always wears black." Just they totally got it. So if you don't define your brand, it's getting defined for you. If you don't take charge of it, it's going to happen. Like just how that guy in that conference, that 70-year-old guy that you were talking about. And so that's fascinating to me that that someone could write a book and not think about that.
It's so true. And, I also think of it like being a teenager. And when you're a teenager and you try on all these different styles of clothes, and you have to go to, I don't know. So that's a royal you. So everybody may not have had that experience, but it's common for teenagers to try on different looks and different attitudes to find one that feels like them. Mm-hmm. So if you right now, you're hearing what I say about how to show up consistently with a writing voice, and that feels a little scary because you don't even know your writing voice, then in writing terms, you may be a writer teenager, and you may need to explore different tones and even different kinds of writing, maybe different genres or types. And then with practice and with really peeling back those layers, and this is kind of tricky because we've talked a lot about how important the reader is. It's also important that you show up to your reader with authenticity and transparency. And sometimes in order to do that, you may want to shift the reader. It has to be someone that you can show up that way for. And when you're doing that, the voice is just going to appear.
Emily's written her blog for almost 10 years, weekly, consistently.
Almost 9 years.
Almost 9 years.
And not consistently.
Yes, you have.
To do anything for 9 years, even inconsistently, is amazing.
Anyway, a brand comes out where you have repeated exposure. There are things that Emily's known for, and you can see those in our book as well, and that's because there's this consistent. People can change over 9 years, obviously, and but there's this consistent worldview and this consistent mindset, and that kind of underscores the brand, I think, the
I think
consistency.
too that made me think too with the blog. I had to make two blogs because I was so interested in writing about writing as well. So I have the blog that's Little Did She Know, which is mental health, faith, inspiration, like life stuff, and then I have one Worlds of Words that is more like writing, book reviews, movie reviews.
That's the one I saw. Yes.
Okay, yeah, because to keep consistent with the brand, I had to separate those two. But I'm going to be honest, there are tons of topics that I want to write about that I hold back because it doesn't fit like what my audience is there for. So like I
Yeah.
have opinions and I have feelings and I have, all this stuff, but it's like, nope, that's not what they're there for, so I'm not going to write that.
Yeah, sometimes you can find a way to thread something in that you want to talk about that you can bring back to your topic in a really interesting way. But absolutely, there are plenty of things when I first started my business in the first year or two on social media, particularly, that I would write about because it was happening and it was interesting to me. But I've almost entirely stopped doing that now because I realized if I want to set myself up as an expert, that doesn't happen unless I plant my flag somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And, and from that, then I can look for, what are the connections to something I want to say. And I'll give some examples during the Black Lives Matter movement. I wanted to talk about that in my social media and in my newsletter. And I wrote an article about it too. And I managed to tie it back to everything I do. So I made it about how to write and avoid racism, or how to write as an anti-racist. And so by doing that, I'm a writing authority. I'm not a race authority, but from the authority that I have, I could then visit that other topic. So I wasn't just on a soapbox. My position was clear, but my position was really secondary to what that content was. It was, here's how to do it.
That is so brilliant and so helpful. Because,
Thank
yeah,
you.
there's going to be topics that you want to avoid, but then, like, I write about mental health, faith, and life. Like, so there are lots of things, like, I'm very passionate about the environment and gardening. And so using, like, okay, what is that? How do I connect that to mental health? How do I connect that to faith? Like, it's definitely possible to do that. And now I have so many more, like, ideas of how I can connect those things. So I love that idea so much.
Oh, me too. I mean, gardening can be very meditative, and
Hmm.
it's in some books that I've worked on before. It's kind of funny. So I'm not a recovering perfectionist. I'm just a perfectionist. But I've had some clients who are recovering perfectionists, so they say. And so I worked on several books about burnout. And yeah, I mean, gardening is totally one of those things that connects to that mindset and kind of, emotional well-being. Totally.
Do you have any burning thing that you just have to say, Dr. Cindy, before you do the call to action?
I'm really excited about your book. I cannot wait to read it.
Oh, thank
Well,
you.
that was nice.
I've been waiting for Jon Meyers to write a book since I met him, so yes.
I
Aw.
actually finished one, thanks to
Oh,
Emily.
fantastic.
And as you might imagine, it has many great stories that will make you laugh.
Well, that's great because I enjoy laughing.
All right, call to action, Dr. Cindy.
Yes, my call to action is about your personal brand as a writer. So, as a writer, however you interpret that for yourself, I want you to think about what are the things about me that I can do consistently so that people will recognize me when they see me, or when they see my writing, there will be some signature things about it that will say, this has to be me. And if this is overwhelming, then just like Jon suggested with his students, I would say go to 2 or 3 people that know you really well and just ask them, what are some things about how I show up that are consistent about me, or even are unique to me? Because the gentleman at the event probably just had the same pair of glasses for all those years, and it hadn't occurred to him it was anything other than just what he sees out of. So sometimes it's sitting on your face, so you actually don't see it. Uh, okay, that was really, I've never said that before. That was great. That was great.
I love that.
That's the pull quote for this episode.
And also, when it comes to your writing, if you're not sure what it is about your writing that makes it distinctly you, ask some people who have told you they enjoy reading what you write, and just ask them from their perspective what they see, and then kind of reflect on that and think, does that fit? Is that how you would want to be perceived? And if not, then that's probably going to be really great input on your writing either way.
And how do they get this to us, Emily?
Yeah, so it depends on where you're listening from. If you're on YouTube, you can respond in the YouTube comments. If you're listening on a podcast listener, you can go to our website at writebettertogether.com/podcast, where you'll find the show notes and you can respond in the show notes for this episode. There's also going to be a link in the show notes just on your podcast player to that. If you are finding us on social media, you're finding this post on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, you can also respond in the comments there.
There you go. I wanted to say one last thing about expectations and branding. In that, so Emily and I spoke at a film festival, and you know where they have the backdrop where you get your picture taken in front of that. So I had on so I always wear black if people don't know that, but I had on a gray jacket with black speckles in it. So to me that was close enough, right? Oh no! When that picture posted, so many people, former students, like, I've never seen Jon Meyers not have all black on before. I'm like, it has black on it, and so people have this expectation of you to stay in your. So that won't happen. We're speaking in Oklahoma City. That won't happen again. Any pictures will have the black, one of the many black jackets on. The same thing when I went to Scotland. On the way, we stopped in London, and so I wore the jacket that I didn't like the most because on the plane and everything, and that was a dark gray one. Well, there was a picture of me like before we checked in the hotel, after we got off the plane, and it's got like, I have a gray jacket on, and they're like, what? Even that was 10 years ago, and they're like, why? Where's Jon Meyers' black jacket? Just let me wear gray every once a week or once a month or something. But nope, I can't.
That's so funny. I was even thinking about this upcoming conference, like, what do I wear? Because I don't have, that sets expectations.
Mm-hmm.
What if I change my style later?
Well, I might recommend the blue of your podcast brand color, especially because it's also going to be the cover of your book. Hope that's not giving anything away.
No, yeah. It is.
Not by the time this comes out. I love that.
I'm wearing black no matter what.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Cindy.
Thank you so much.
And we're back. She's so good. She does like everything.
I had so many great light bulb moments during that. Like, you could see it on my face. We're just like, it's so good.
I know. I'm speechless. So she has an authority about her. Dr. Cindy does. But it's not bragging. It's like she could be bragging because she's so great at what she does, but for some reason her authority supplants the bragging.
That's an interesting point, because when you're successful in your teaching, like, you don't want to hide your success, because that's part of her teaching, is being like, I did this and you can too, and this is how I've done it. rather than just being like, oh no, it's not a big deal. I'm not an expert.
My blog hasn't been 10 years. It's been 9.37 years.
I was just being honest. I
It
have been
hasn't
consistent.
been every week. I missed a week back in 1999. Oh, that wouldn't even be.
When I was 6 years old.
That would be in a different millennia. So yeah, so she's not afraid to tell you of her competence, and she shouldn't.
Yeah.
No one should be. Yeah, like you said, she's not gonna say I'm not an expert. She's got
Yeah.
expert in her tagline.
She modeled that well. Like
Yeah,
modeled confidence and
yeah,
without
I
being
agree.
bragging. Yeah.
We all need to be more like Dr. Cindy.
Yeah.
Do you ever want to be a doctor?
I've thought about it, but I don't think so because I don't know what I would want to get my doctorate in.
So I have an MA and an MFA, so I don't want there's more than enough stuff I can teach without one, so I don't want to be. But if there was a way to get one class at a time, for the rest of my life, then I
Yeah.
would. But I don't want to do 2 classes or 4 classes.
If I got my doctorate in lit, it would only be because so that I could teach lit, but I just don't think that that's the direction that I want to go. So I thought
Yeah.
about getting my doctorate in theology.
Yeah.
But I decided just to read a lot of books.
If you get it, do I have to call you Dr. Emily, Dr. Brooks?
Yeah, for now you can call me Master Brooks.
Okay.
I had a student actually call me Master Brooks in his essay, and then he put a little lightsaber emoji next to it. It made me really happy.
Perfect. All right.
Hey, Jon Meyers.
Yes. You get to learn something.
So today's topic is actually something that it was something that I learned this week that I had never really thought about before, and it excited me. I don't know. We'll see if it translates. Do you know anything about romanization?
Romanization.
Romanization specifically of language.
No, I mean, I know words that went through different forms, like went from some obscure language to Greek to Roman to whatever it is now. And I know some words have that. I didn't know it was a term, romanization. Some words have that in its lineage, and some don't.
So the idea,
not all words went through the Roman system.
So you probably do know more about it than you think, or at least you know of it. So if you see, you're in Japan. Imagine that you're in Japan with your friend David Holchester, and you're looking at road signs, and then there's the Japanese language written, and then on the bottom there is an English version using the Latin letters that we know, the Roman letters that we know, our alphabet.
The alphabet we know.
The alphabet that we know. So that process of translating the original language into our alphabet is called romanization.
Oh.
So what I learned that's really interesting, so as you all know, if you've been listening, is I watch a lot of Korean dramas, so shows that were made in South Korea. And as I was watching one the other day, I was like, I feel like I've learned Korean, like several words and phrases just by watching these. And I was like, I wonder how they're actually spelled though, because I sometimes can't hear words very well until I've seen the spelling. So one of the examples was, all of this is going to come together. One of the examples was when they're saying yes, it sounds, and forgive me for poor pronunciation because I'm still kind of practicing this, is de. De. How would you imagine that being spelled?
Say it louder and slower.
De.
You can't say it slower. One more time.
De.
I would think that was D-E-T.
Okay. So when I looked it up, it is spelled in the romanization N-E.
Oh. Well,
And
just like to bring it back, what we just said, you wouldn't think punchki would be spelled Paczi.
actually ended up being relevant, didn't it? Yes.
Yeah.
So here's what's interesting, because I was looking it up and every word that I looked up was different. So I was Googling this and was like, why does it sound different from, like, it sounds different. And it turns out I'm not the only one.
Yeah.
People who are listening to these words and then seeing the romanization are saying this doesn't match. And I actually found an article called The Imperfect Art of Romanization on the New York Times. And it's someone who is, his mom was Korean. He was born in the US and he was trying to learn Korean from on Duolingo. And when he was on Duolingo, he was like, it's not right. They're trying to make me match the Korean letters with the Roman alphabet, and the sounds weren't matching up. So the sound that I just made with de would be ne, but it doesn't sound like ne, right?
Correct.
And he was like, this is not working. It's not the same. You can't translate it. So I was watching this video, and I'll share this video too. I forget what it's called, but it'll be in the show notes. He was like, the problem is that our alphabet does not perfectly align with these languages because we don't use the same parts of our mouth when we're pronouncing them. So it's only just as close as you can make it. So that sound, de, again, and if you're listening and you speak Korean and you're using the Hangul alphabet, you're going to notice that I'm probably pronouncing it correctly because it's closer to your teeth than de, but it's not necessarily ne either. It's somewhere in the middle. So it's actually a sound that just we as English speakers do not use. So you can't actually learn the exact pronunciation correctly only using romanization. You have to learn the Hangul for Korean. You have to learn the Hangul alphabet and each sound associated with it in order to actually pronounce it correctly. And I think that that's why, so my sister spent 2 months in China once and she was learning Chinese, or specifically Mandarin. And she said there were sounds that she couldn't hear. They would be like, you're not pronouncing that correctly. And she didn't realize because you can't hear it because you're not used to it. Like I was hearing D in that word, even though it was a sound that I couldn't really hear the difference.
Wow. That's fascinating.
And when people try to learn English, so it goes the other way too, you may consistently hear people struggling with certain pronunciations, certain sounds or letters because that's not a letter in their alphabet.
When so bring this up with English to Japanese with David Helchester when he's on.
Yeah.
He says when he watches the podcast or even just a clip or one of our commercials, it's like the only time he hears English now.
Really?
We have this
That's
big
interesting.
responsibility. Or if I leave him a voice text, I'll leave him a voice text sometime. We have this big responsibility because he speaks English, obviously. That's his native tongue, but he hears Japanese all day.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's interesting.
You know, that was another way I got on my bubble is I met with my friends who are missionaries in Japan. They're here right now, but they're going back to Japan in January. And it was fascinating to hear them talk about it. It's really interesting. And they are, of course, learning the language, and their kids are going to have to learn the language. So they're going to have to learn new sounds.
Cool.
Yeah.
I learned so much on this show.
If you want to keep learning more about things on this show.
Yeah. Wait, go ahead. Say what you're going to say.
Subscribe to our podcast. And
No. Don't. Don't subscribe. What's the next thing?
Write a review?
Nope. Don't. No reviews. Nope. What's
Share
the next
it with
thing?
a friend?
No sharing. No sharing's bad.
Like it? Comment?
Nope. No likes, no comments. Nope. We don't want any of that. None of it. Just keep it to yourself. Do not I don't even know. Do we want them to enjoy it? I'm using reverse psychology. Do you see? Because every podcaster says, do this, like, subscribe. But no one ever says, don't.
Don't do it.
So whatever you do, don't do it. Whatever those other podcasters tell you to do, don't do it. We want to be different. We want to stand out from the crowd. Don't submit the call to action.
Yeah. Don't talk to us ever.
Don't troll it. Oh, wait. No, that we want.
Troll us all the time.
Please troll us. There you go. That was my new tactic.
Wow.
What do you think?
Awesome.
Do you remember what happens next? Oh, you left the screen.
I had to sneeze.
Perhaps, if you don't remember, perhaps this will refresh your memory.
Yes, it is time for the final act. And today, Jon Meyers is playing for this broken typewriter.
That's not a typewriter.
It's like a 70s version of a typewriter.
I wasn't born in the 70s. Neither were you. How do we know what that is? That could be anything.
Huh?
We don't know that we weren't around in the 70s. That could be anything.
This was I asked for a typewriter one year for my birthday or for Christmas, and I got one.
You got a 30-year-old typewriter. Happy birthday, Emily.
It's pretty cool. Oh man. Do we have time for me to go on a sidetrack?
Sure.
We
always have time.
I had a writing bully night. We call it bully nights because you're bullying each other into writing.
I saw that on the Misty episode.
Yeah, and one of the guys brought this new device, and I'm gonna have to put it in the show notes because it's so cool. It's basically like a modern day typewriter where you can only see the couple lines that you're writing at a time, and you just have the keyboard, and then you can upload it to your computer. So it's basically like writing with no distractions.
So I've seen that online. It's like a little tiny word processor.
It was very cool. All right, the name of the game is.
Oh yeah, we're playing a game.
Who said it? I saw this game. I'm stealing this directly from the internet.
You were watching the internet. I thought you were gonna say this big long name, and you went, "Who said it?" Like 3 words.
That's it.
Right.
I found this game on the internet. There's a church, and we'll put the video in the show notes. But there's a church that made this game called C.S. Lewis or Taylor Swift.
Oh, I like this.
Who said it? And they actually did. They didn't do very well playing the game.
The parishioners or who was playing the game?
I'm guessing it was the staff.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna read a quote, and then you are going to say who you think it is, and then I'll tell you who it actually was.
We have a listener who knows, like, you know, when the Spotify end of the year thing comes out.
Yeah.
So in her top 100, there was only one non-Taylor Swift song in it, in 100. And I can't remember who it is.
I will say, I know I'm playing this game and I think it's great, but I don't listen to Taylor Swift, and I apologize to everybody for this news. It's not, I don't have anything against her. I think she's super talented. I just have other music that I listen to.
Well, I like all female singer-songwriters, as you know, on Song Saturday.
Yes.
On our Facebook page.
Well,
and but I don't know, like this person who I'm forgetting. I apologize, listener. I'm forgetting who you are. I don't have an unfair advantage because I don't know like this person does.
Okay.
Nor do I know I know who T.S. Eliot is, and I've read T.S. Eliot, but I don't have it memorized either.
It's really funny that you mentioned T.S. Eliot because when I was looking
up, you said C.S. Lewis.
I said C.S. Lewis, but it's really like you read my mind because as I was looking this up, there's a whole article on it was comparing C.S. Lewis and T.S. Eliot with Taylor Swift.
Because they're all interchangeable. No.
Yeah. It was an interesting article.
Okay. Put that in the show notes because I want to read it.
Sure. Good idea. Okay. Here's the first quote. Love anything and your heart will be wrung and possibly broken.
Are you going to put these up on the screen at a future date or not?
I can do that.
It would help if I could see them on the screen. I will just say. No, don't do that.
They're short quotes. They're really short quotes.
Perhaps this would persuade you to put it up on the screen.
Oh.
I just have a pile of ones here, so I thought I would wave them around. So now I've forgotten. I'm doing C.S. Lewis, not T.S. Eliot, right?
Yes, it's C.S. Lewis or Taylor Swift.
They're not the same person.
Do you need the quote again?
I will say C.S. Lewis.
Correct.
Yay! Ding, 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 ding. How many do I got to get right to win the typewriter?
There's 9, so you have to get 5.
There you go. 5 out of 4. Or 5 out of 9. Okay, next.
We learn the right step to different dances.
Taylor Swift.
Correct. That was an easy one.
No, it was not easy. Are your quotes set in stone, like you're not going to change if I get too many right in a row or something?
No.
I think Taylor does a lot of we. She's very inclusive. So that was my clue for that.
If you love deeply, you're going to get hurt badly, but it's so worth it.
This is a trick question. This is neither one. This is a quote from our book.
T.S.
Right?
Eliot. Just kidding.
This is a quote from our book, Write Anyway. Giving yourself permission to write no matter what. Man, this is a hard one.
It is a hard one.
Say it again.
If you love deeply, you're going to get hurt badly, but it's so worth it.
C.S. Lewis.
Correct. Wow.
Hey, ding, 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 3 for 3.
Why love if losing hurts so much? We love to know that we are not alone.
Are all the Taylor Swift ones all in songs, or they could also be from an interview?
I think they're all in songs, but I'm not familiar enough to know.
Okay, I will say that is Taylor Swift.
It is C.S. Lewis.
Oh, I missed one. Are you keeping score?
I am keeping score.
So, okay, I can only miss 3 more. Say it again.
Huh?
Say it again. I want to know what again. I want to hear it again now that I know it's C.S. Lewis.
Why love if losing hurts so much? We love to know that we are not alone.
Yeah, this is fake news. Where did you get this from? That church, whatever church that was, they lied to us. I'm joking. The church does not lie.
Right. I just trusted them. Never be so clever you forget to be kind.
That's from our book for sure. What's our book called?
Write something.
No, it's called Write Anyway.
Oh.
Giving yourself permission to write no matter what. Available now at Amazon.com. I'm going to go with C.S. Lewis.
It's Taylor Swift.
Dude, your face, you don't even have to say it. I can tell. The second I say the wrong one, your face.
In our history, across our great divide, there is a glorious sunrise.
Taylor Swift.
Correct.
But our and we, that's where I got that. But there was a we earlier from C.S. Lewis. You threw a monkey wrench in there.
It might just have been you passing by unbeknownst to me.
Taylor Swift.
Yeah, I feel like that one was kind of easy, personally.
Oh, when I get them right, you say they're easy. When I get them wrong...
No, I thought that when I was watching the video, too.
Was it right?
Yes, you were correct. Yes.
Okay.
2 more.
Okay.
You ask whether I've ever been in love. Full as I am not such a fool as that.
Neither one of them. Amber Heard. Say it again.
Wow. Okay.
Say it again.
You ask whether I've ever been in love. Full as I am not such a fool as that.
I'm going to go with T.C. Lewis. C.S. Lewis.
Correct.
Yay.
So let's see. You've got...
That one was hard.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 correct. So you've already won.
Oh, then...
But let's see if you can get this last one.
Heck, what do I get for that bonus? This is causing undue stress on my brain.
Things never happen the same way twice.
Who cares? I already won. Things never happen the same way twice. That would be Taylor Swift.
Incorrect. It was C.S. Lewis.
Oh, you just had to finish it on me getting one wrong.
I didn't know you were going to get it wrong.
But I still won.
You still won the ancient typewriter.
And then, so it's not anticlimactic of ending on a bad question. You will now sing all of the ones that were Taylor Swift lyrics, right? Here we go. Dun, dun, dun. 1, 2, 3, go. Neat, neat, neat. Come on. Let's go.
Well,
I tried,
unfortunately,
listeners.
I'm a poser. I don't actually know the songs.
All right, good. That was fun. And I got a typewriter.
Yay!
Is there a ribbon in it?
I think that's what's broken about it.
Oh, I got a broken typewriter.
I told you it was broken from the beginning. If you want to fix it, if anybody wants to buy it and fix it, feel free. I don't know what's wrong with it. It just
Wait,
won't
I
work.
just want it. Now you're selling my prize out from under me? Don't break down in front of Emily. You'll be on eBay the next day. All right. We couldn't have.
We couldn't have done it with that.
We couldn't have done it without you. Kleenex.